Once upon a time, in a quaint little house nestled on the edge of a bustling village, lived a cat named Whiskers and a mouse named Squeaky. Despite what one might expect, their relationship was not defined by the typical predator-prey dynamic. Instead, it was a tale of unusual friendship, cooperation, and mutual respect. Whiskers, a sleek and elegant tabby with fur that shone like silver in the sunlight, was not an ordinary cat. Raised by a kind old lady named Mrs. Thompson, Whiskers had grown up with a gentle heart and a curious mind. Mrs. Thompson had always taught Whiskers to value all creatures, big and small. She believed that every animal had a role to play in the grand tapestry of life, a lesson that Whiskers took to heart. On the other hand, Squeaky was a small, resourceful mouse with fur as gray as the dawn mist and eyes that sparkled with intelligence. Squeaky had lived in the house long before Whiskers arrived. The little mouse had found the house to be a safe haven, with plenty of nooks and crannies to hide in and crumbs aplenty to nibble on. But life had changed when Whiskers arrived. Their first encounter was tense. Whiskers had caught a glimpse of Squeaky darting behind a cupboard and instinctively pounced. Squeaky, quick as lightning, slipped into a tiny hole in the wall, narrowly escaping the sharp claws of the cat. Whiskers sat by the hole, curious about the creature that had escaped her grasp. For several days, she would sit and wait, her eyes fixed on the tiny hole, but Squeaky remained hidden. One rainy afternoon, as Whiskers lounged by the window, watching the droplets dance against the glass, she heard a faint squeak. It was a pitiful sound, a sound of distress. Following the noise, she found Squeaky trapped under a fallen beam in the attic. The storm had caused part of the roof to cave in, and Squeaky was pinned. Whiskers could have seized the opportunity to catch the mouse, but something in Squeaky's eyes stopped her. Instead, she carefully nudged the beam with her head and paws until Squeaky was free. Squeaky, though wary, looked at Whiskers with a mixture of fear and gratitude before scurrying off to safety. From that day on, a silent understanding formed between the two. Squeaky began to venture out more often, cautiously at first, but growing bolder each day. Whiskers, true to the lessons taught by Mrs. Thompson, respected Squeaky's space and never made any attempt to catch him again. Over time, this understanding blossomed into a unique friendship. Whiskers and Squeaky developed a system of communication. Whiskers would leave small bits of her food in certain places as a gesture of goodwill, and Squeaky, in turn, would bring tiny treasures he found in the house, a shiny button, a piece of ribbon, a colorful bead. These gifts were tokens of their growing bond. As the seasons passed, their friendship deepened. Whiskers and Squeaky discovered that they could help each other in various ways. Whiskers, with her agility and strength, could reach places Squeaky could not. She would retrieve items that had fallen into narrow gaps or high shelves. Squeaky, with his small size and cleverness, could explore the tiniest corners of the house, finding hidden stashes of food and other useful items. One crisp autumn evening, as the leaves turned golden and the air grew cool, Whiskers noticed that Mrs. Thompson was not her usual self. The old lady had always been spry and full of life, but now she seemed tired and weak. Whiskers stayed close to her, purring softly to offer comfort. Squeaky, too, sensed the change. He saw that Mrs. Thompson struggled to move around the house and often coughed painfully. Concerned for their beloved caretaker, Whiskers and Squeaky decided to do something to help. They fetched the items Mrs. Thompson needed from around the house. Whiskers would bring her slippers and the newspaper each morning, while Squeaky would gather small things like her knitting needles and balls of yarn. One day, Mrs. Thompson's condition worsened, and she was unable to get out of bed. Whiskers and Squeaky worked tirelessly to ensure she had everything she needed. Whiskers stayed by her side, purring soothingly, while Squeaky brought small sips of water from the kitchen. They watched over her day and night, never leaving her alone. Despite their efforts, Mrs. Thompson's health continued to decline. One winter night, she peacefully passed away, leaving Whiskers and Squeaky in deep sorrow. They mourned the loss of the kind lady who had shown them both such love and care. The house felt empty without her warm presence. After Mrs. Thompson's passing, the house was left in the care of her distant relatives, who visited infrequently to check on the property. Whiskers and Squeaky found solace in each other's company, their friendship stronger than ever. They spent their days exploring the house, reminiscing about the times they had shared with Mrs. Thompson, and finding new ways to entertain themselves. One day, a young couple named Emma and Jack moved into the house. They were kind-hearted and immediately noticed the unusual friendship between the cat and the mouse. Emma, an artist, found inspiration in their bond and began to paint scenes of their adventures. Jack, a writer, started penning a children's book based on their story. Emma and Jack were enchanted by Whiskers and Squeaky and treated them with the same kindness Mrs. Thompson had. They left out small bowls of food for Squeaky and made sure Whiskers had a cozy bed by the fireplace. Whiskers and Squeaky, in turn, entertained the couple with their playful antics and loyal companionship. One spring morning, while exploring the attic, Squeaky discovered an old chest. Inside, he found a collection of letters and photographs belonging to Mrs. Thompson. With Whiskers' help, they brought the treasures down to Emma and Jack, who were thrilled to uncover the history of the house and its previous owner. The letters revealed that Mrs. Thompson had once been a celebrated writer and artist, much like Emma and Jack. Inspired by Mrs. Thompson's life, Emma and Jack decided to restore the house to its former glory. They cleaned and refurbished each room, turning the attic into a cozy studio where Emma could paint and Jack could write. Whiskers and Squeaky loved the new energy in the house and often joined Emma in the studio, watching her create beautiful art inspired by their friendship. As the years passed, Whiskers and Squeaky grew older, but their bond never wavered. They continued to explore the house, play in the garden, and keep Emma and Jack company. Their story became the heart of Jack's children's book, which was eventually published and became a beloved classic. The book, titled Whiskers and Squeaky, A Tale of Unlikely Friendship, captured the hearts of readers young and old. It told the story of a cat and a mouse who, against all odds, formed a deep and lasting friendship. The book's success brought visitors from far and wide to the little house, eager to meet the real-life Whiskers and Squeaky. One summer afternoon, as the sun cast a warm glow over the house, Emma and Jack held a garden party to celebrate the success of the book. Whiskers and Squeaky were the guests of honor, surrounded by children who listened with wide-eyed wonder as Jack read aloud from his book. Emma's paintings, depicting scenes from their adventures, adorned the garden, adding a magical touch to the celebration. Whiskers and love and admiration of their new friends. They had come a long way from their first tense encounter, proving that friendship could transcend boundaries and differences. Their story continued to inspire and bring joy to everyone who heard it. In the twilight of their lives, Whiskers and Squeaky knew they had lived a life full of love, adventure, and purpose. They had honored Mrs. Thompson's legacy and brought happiness to Emma, Jack, and countless others. As they curled up together by the fireplace, they felt a deep sense of contentment, knowing that their story would live on in the hearts of those who cherished it. And so, in the cozy little house on the edge of the village, the cat and the mouse who had defied expectations lived out their days in peace and harmony, a testament to the power of friendship and the magic of kindness.